When you open a website, something incredible happens. And once you see how this works, the internet will never look the same again. In less than a second, your request travels across cities, countries, and even entire oceans before the website appears on your screen. But how does that actually happen? Where does your data go? And what does the internet actually look like in the real world? Most people imagine the internet as something abstract, something floating somewhere in the cloud. But the internet is actually a huge physical machine built from cables, routers, data centers, and infrastructure spread across the entire planet. In fact, some of the cables carrying your data run across the bottom of the ocean. In this video, we're going to follow the exact journey your data takes when you open a website. Let's imagine something simple. You open your laptop and type a website into your browser. When you press Enter, your computer sends a request asking for that website. But that request needs to travel through a huge global network to reach the server hosting the website. To understand how this works, imagine the internet like a global postal system. Your message is like a letter. It needs an address, a transportation network, and many sorting centers along the way. The first stop for your data is your router. It receives your data and forwards it to your Internet Service Provider, also known as your ISP. Your ISP is the company that connects your home to the Internet. Your ISP operates large regional networks that connect thousands or even millions of customers. Think of this like local roads connecting neighborhoods to highways. Once your data leaves your Internet provider, it enters something called the Internet backbone. The backbone is the high-speed core of the global Internet. A simple way to understand it is to imagine the Internet like a road system. The connection inside your home is like a small street. Your Internet provider's network is more like the roads inside a city. But the backbone of the Internet is like the major international highways that connect entire countries and continents together. These backbone networks carry enormous amounts of Internet traffic, moving data across the world every single second. But what are these highways actually made of? The answer is fiber optic cables. Fiber optic cables are thin strands of glass designed to transmit light. Instead of sending electricity like traditional cables, fiber optics send pulses of light that represent digital data. This technology allows enormous amounts of information to travel extremely fast over long distances. But what happens when your data needs to travel to another continent? For example, from Europe to America. In that case, your data travels through submarine cables. These are fiber optic cables laid across the ocean floor. More than 95% of international internet traffic travels through these cables, which means when you send a message overseas, it often travels thousands of kilometers under the ocean. But there's a problem. Light signals weaken over long distances, so submarine cables contain devices called repeaters. These devices amplify the signal every few dozen kilometers, allowing data to travel across entire oceans. Eventually, your request reaches a data center. A data center is a massive facility filled with servers. A server is simply a computer whose job is to store websites, applications, and many of the online services we use every day. When you open a website, a server in a data center processes your request and sends the response with the web page back to you. And that response travels through the same infrastructure but in the opposite direction. It leaves the data center, enters the Internet backbone, then travels through your Internet provider's network, reaches your router, and finally arrives at your computer. All of this happens incredibly fast, usually in just a few milliseconds. But this raises an important question. If billions of devices are connected to the Internet, how do they actually find each other? How does your computer know where a server is located? The answer involves something called IP addresses and MAC addresses, which act like the unique identities of devices on the Internet. In the next video, we're going to explore how computers identify each other and how data knows exactly where it needs to go. So if you're interested in learning how the Internet really works, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.